Trust is an odd thing, and I've been pondering on it recently, realizing that it's more innate in us than we probably know. This one isn't as heavy as some of these videos I have planned out, but still thought it would be important to talk about as kind of a food for thought sort of thing. Even people who claim they don't trust people are only talking about a certain type of trust that involve taking or not taking people's words or actions at face value. Think about it. You shake someone's hand. Subconsciously, you trust that person to have washed their hands recently. Or you don't, and that's the only thing that you can think about when you reluctantly accept their handshake and then later pull out a personal little bottle of hand sanitizer. In which case, you need to chill.
I can shake hands.
Alternatively, you trust people in the cars surrounding you at a traffic light, and to that you think, no I don't, driving is dangerous and people are crazy. Yes, while it's good to stay alert, you still have some sort of expectancy of making it to and from work every day. And to a certain point, you have grown accustomed to a form of normalcy in the everyday behavior of others. I think this trust is built for the purpose of faith. Even if you claim to not be religious, you have to admit that there are certain parts of human nature that really seem to give us an inclination toward religion. For this video, I wanted to talk a little more about that faith, which I briefly mentioned near the end of my last episode about depression. So what does having a subconscious, generic definition of trust have to do with faith? Well, for starters, people simply don't have the brain capacity to operate on a conscious level for everything happening at once. Like computers, we run something as an administrator here and there, we have background processes, but the more apps that are running at once, the slower the computer gets, and sometimes you have to forcibly end tasks.
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Our walk with God as Christians is kind of like that sometimes. And God designed us with wiring to run some systems on autopilot to help us cope with life and understand His symbologies better. That analogy wasn't great, but my trust thing was more of a passing thought, because what I'm really trying to get to is faith. And I guess I just have to work on my tie-ins. It's not just a, yeah, I believe there's an afterlife and I'm going to the good one because I believe in Jesus, background running program type of faith. I'm talking about the you heard an authoritative voice tell you to jump across a chasm and you said, yes sir, no questions asked type of faith. Like you have trust in God, but do you trust God? This is the biggest, most recent example I can give anyone from my life. A few years ago, my friend and I took a 3-month-long road trip around the United States. We visited 48 states, every state except for Alaska and Hawaii, obviously. And about a third of the way through that trip, when we were in Texas, I took a walk by myself. I was frustrated, exhausted from life, dead-end job. My girlfriend had just dumped me. I felt stabbed in the back by a lot of people during the whole 2020 thing. I was disappointed also in myself and what I had accomplished, or the lack of accomplishment. And I've had a lifelong battle with making a name for myself, or achieving something great, or leaving a mark, or whatever you want to call it, but that's for another time. I'll probably make a video about it. Anyway, I'm on this walk, griping at God for all of the above. I'm thinking, I've got all these gifts and skills. What the heck am I doing with them? Where is my life going? What the heck is even the point of all this? And I hear this Christianese phrase in the back of my head. Just pursue God. Everything else will fall into place. Just pursue God. I grit my teeth. What does that even mean? I've heard this all my life, but what does it look like literally? In a practical sense, other than just reading the Bible and praying. What do I do? And suddenly, all of the other voices in my head just stop. And I try to be really careful when saying things like, oh, God said this, God told me this. But what I feel strongly to this day is that he responded, it looks like using the gifts that I gave you to glorify me. As in, part of pursuit means to give back to him what he first gave us, as if to respond to him by accepting the gift and reciprocate. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, I really think my gifts and my calling is music and art related. So he replied, what is stopping you then? What stands between you and your music and art? Well, my job does. It's hard on my body and it drains me of motivation. It takes a lot of time. Then quit your job. What? Do you trust me? I mean, yeah, but do you trust me? Quit your job. Now, I have to pause there and emphasize that this is just my story, and it may resonate with you, but please use wisdom and discernment. So anyway, I really felt like this was God saying to me, just try me, dude. Like, prove you have faith in me. So I called my boss, because initially this trip was just an unpaid leave of absence, where my position would be held for me until I got back. But then I told my boss, while I was there in Texas, that I wasn't coming back. And he wasn't even surprised. He straight up, he was just like, dude, you don't go on a 3-month road trip and just come back to the same life. So fast forward, and the very night that we came back into our home area, we visited the home of the director of the art school that I teach at. And she said that night, Jordan, how about you move up here and become an art teacher? And by that time, the next year, I was engaged to my now wife, who I met at the art school. I had built a brand off my creative abilities, doing songwriting and music commissions, teaching private vocal and drawing lessons. I started running a monthly swing dance, amongst other things. And it was enough for me to pay for my living expenses throughout the time Christina and I were dating. But once we got married and wanted to have a family together, it wasn't. And it still is not. So although that leap of faith was a biblical step to take, just listening to God say jump and leaving, financial security behind, and to be honest, my life that I uprooted from in Oregon, what is also biblical is being a good steward, servant, and as a man, a provider. So I eventually rotated back into doing the responsible thing and getting a 9-to-5. The thing is that even though taking that leap of faith and quitting that old job didn't lead to spectacular financial wealth, it did lead to immense fulfillment of the soul. God didn't promise that he would make me a millionaire if I did that, but what he does promise is his goodness, wholeness, and fulfillment in ways that we as humans won't always see coming. Hardly ever, actually. When we trust in God, he provides and meets needs we don't even know we have, in the best sort of ways. And of course, it's not just about my fulfillment either. What I was doing in that leap of faith was stepping into the next part of my calling that God had for my life. So it's not just do what he says so that you can get rewarded. The active pursuit is when you're living in his calling, you're doing things for his kingdom that he's commanded you to do, right? So like me teaching art is part of my ministry. The social dance that I host is also part of my ministry. God's using my talents to lead people toward him. So yeah, trust God. I really mean that. Leave a comment if this video was thought-provoking for you, and if you got all the way through and enjoyed my ranting, give it a like, and if you're interested in more of my deep thoughts, consider subscribing. And thanks for watching. Bye. Sweet. Thank you, Josiah, for giving me a desktop tripod for Christmas.